Okay, welcome everybody. Please have a seat. So very warm welcome, Dr. Reza Moussavian. Just a quick question, what is your first presentation about, just in one sentence?
In one sentence, it's, let's say, the compiled presentation of a study we have run through over the last 1.5 years, and I'm going to show you some of the results, not all, because I was cut with 20 minutes, so I will hurry up as quickly as possible.
Perfect. So that's because we have a panel afterwards. Reza will also introduce all the panel members. And yeah, let's kick off. And yeah, let's get to work.
All right. Thank you for introduction. Thank you for joining. Early morning. I'm surprised to see so many here. So because the night is about to come, it's going to be very long. My name is Reza. I'm working for Deutsche Telekom. The unit I work in and I'm heading is called Shareground. Shareground is something we would say this is the incubator of Deutsche Telekom. Not Hubraum, not T-Labs, what you might know. It is the culture incubator. And we are focusing on transforming the organization towards becoming what we say is an innovation culture. So we take care about customer centricity, not at the customer-facing units, they have this already, rather than administrative, strategic units to think more customer-centric. We are applying design thinking as means of new way of change management. We think about digital collaboration, we think about exposing a corporate social network towards a social experience network. So a lot of interesting thing, and I'm very happy to work there. And one of the jobs we did was to run this study together with University St. Gallen, which is less a study, I must say. It's more a discussion paper. We have been interviewing experts around the world on what do they think, what the future of work will be about. So this is not hardwiring reality. This is, let's say, an Adelphi approach, what experts across the world have told us. And our press department always wants me to say this is not the official position of Deutsche Telekom, because they might not agree with a good number of the thesis we have there. And this is good, because this is actually exactly what we want to achieve, to provoke from the inside and to make our own company rethink, but not only our own company, rather than everyone, and this is the reason why we have shared this study. I think this is known to most of you. We are, you know, second machine age, fourth industrial revolution. Would I have more time, I would talk about it, but sorry, guys. So let's go into the thesis and what we have. Thesis number one. We will experience that, let's say, line organization is about to be dissolved. We will work in fluid organizations, in pool organizations, in network communities, rather than having a directional orientation. This links to the second one, which is peer-to-peer instead of hierarchical. So the classical way, conventional way, particular how corporates work in very rigid, let's say pyramid-like organizations, is about to be overcome. You see some of the examples which are already happening, of course, in the world most of you are familiar with. So in the world of startups, of lean startups, it is a new concept when it comes to huge corporations. IBM is one of the companies which has started this way, liquid workforce as the buzzword over there, and a couple of others are about to follow. Assigning instead of employing, again, nothing new for you, very new for a corporation, which says that permanent contracts, and which is, let's say, the notion of the majority of contracts in Central Europe. Yesterday, there was a new study launched about behavior of high school graduates in Germany, that the majority prefers fixed employment, so the rate of founders is going down, and this is not going to be the future. The future is going to be, even if you work for a corporation, more and more flex-based work. Doesn't mean that you are assigned with a flex company, with a staffing agency, but it can be that you are assigned in a peer-to-peer network, working on a specific contract, and or being assigned from wherever you are in the world. This has huge implications on how organizations, corporations are run today. Human resources is with the human resource departments nowadays. What we see here is that human resources might vanish. The new CHRO is the Chief Procurement Officer. So if you think it through radical, it means the CPO knows exactly what type of projects people will be assigned to. You have a fantastic database where you can scope all the activities. And the CPO selects the people, which means that even a large corporation, and there are simulations on the market, even large corporations such as Adidas in future, will not need more than 50 people to be run as a corporation. They have 100,000 today. Volkswagen, the CHRO has published his report to say if you buy 10 years ago the Volkswagen Golf, the most popular car in Volkswagen Group, was built by 5,000 people and 50 robots. Today it's 2,500 people and 2,500 robots, and he's expecting in 10 years 0 people and the same number of robots. So this is going to change, and so work becomes more flexible and more automated. The automation means that something or some people thought, okay, we are over this, to think in reference models and in vanilla blueprints coming from IT solution providers. But big data allows us a much more precise way to predict things that were not predictable in the past. So this is not a demon of the 80s. This is actually, yeah, the angel of the new decade, which means consulting, strategic solutions, decision making is not an area where strategic consultancies will play a big role in future. It is rather who has the best algorithm and who has the best ability to extract data to come up with decisions. So this is what we are saying here, SAP instead of McKinsey. Given the amount of information, let's say the universe of creativity that exists, customers acting as extreme users, product launches not opting for a perfect product to be launched rather than the minimum viable product, it means that the way how innovation is run, how it's technically incubated and then commercially distributed is changing. This is again nothing new, but the age of digitization allows completely new ways to do this over social media networks, about innovation contests which are run more or less over a social network. So open innovation, open collaboration, up to open strategy become terms of regular business activity. And many corporations, of course, go into defense mode these days. So they are not ready to share licenses. They are not ready to give up the more infrastructure asset-based business model. Think about let's say a taxi union compared to Uber. Think about different other opportunities where open becomes the word. Tesla compared to Volkswagen, BMW. So the core asset is not is neither the patent nor the car manufacturing. It's more the overall idea, and at the end the battery production. This means that part of the innovation process are not the genius technicians. It's actually your 1% power users that you have in each and every product that you apply, which become the utmost important driver for product innovation. Again, something you can commercialize as a startup by offering, let's say, the bundling prosumers of big corporations, and then in that approach the research and development unit, for example. So many ways are possible. Other companies, big companies, think about opening up their corporate social networks to become a community-based network. Deutsche Telekom launched last year, exactly last year at the IFA in Berlin, a new product called Magenta 1. And the problems of this product were not dealt with specialists in the company. They were dealt with employees across the corporation, so that employees overall help to resolve customers, to get to know the product and to improve the product, and vice versa. You use consumers as part of your product development. The role of machines is about to change. In the past, and that's why we say this is the fourth industrial revolution. The third one said you are extending. By the way, the study is free for download, so you can take pictures, but you can much easier way to download it. So the third industrial revolution was about extension of human capability. So you had a steam machine or whatever machine who was multiplying the thing that you were doing. The fourth revolution means machines becoming intelligent, so they can replace a human entirely, human work entirely. And it's not an extension of human ability, it's a replacement. Which means that machines are not, let's say, your low standardized work, repetitive work replicators. They become that and they do this, but rather more, the development in artificial intelligence, neuronal artificial systems, IBM Deep North, for example, the Google project where the computer is about to dream. This week, the other announcement that expressionist art can be replicated by machines. So all this shows that they're entering the world of creativity, the world of nonlinear. And for a corporation, it means in some of the areas, even today, you will have machines acting as your boss. So I don't know how many of you are founders or CEOs so you're at the end of the chain. But if you're not the CEO and you have someone above us, imagine this is a machine. So and your annual discussion about pay rise is with an algorithm. I will answer your question in a second. Cloud and click working. So something maybe a good number of you is familiar with. Our study says this is going not to be the next big thing. This is just an interim phenomenon. So we expect in 5 years that all cloud and click workers will be replaced by machines. So if your business model is about that, you might want to rethink this. Software, programming software, machines, developing machines, and not the same machines as they are, but different machines, is an fantastic, phenomenous market, which is exponentially growing. The ability in this new world is not just to have the data and to create the databases. It's what we would say is how from the database you come to the data carpet. So how can you apply your creativity and your intelligence into reading those data? So in every aspect of human life, medicine, art, management, finance, engineering, wherever you go to, the ability to read data will become a core ability. So in case any of you are social scientists, psychologists, artists, think about adding a course on statistics and maths. The new world, the ability to work from wherever you are, to have access to corporate systems, to your customers from wherever you are, 2 months ago, there was a nice study published in Paris Match, the French magazine, about an Israeli who has no home base. She's traveling months to another company, and she's a customer representative of an Israeli company, and she works Israeli daytime from wherever she's in the world. So when she's in Bangkok, she works from 8 p.m. until 2 a.m. When she's in Atlantic City, she works from, I don't know, 2 a.m. till 10 in the morning. So she has to adhere to where the customers are located. This is in Israel. She has no home base. She's traveling around the world. The whole life is within one suitcase, and she's apparently enjoying this. These types of models will also apply to corporates. So home office, co-working spaces, creative spaces will become more and more important even if you work in a 100,000 plus company. The contradiction there is the following. Let me give you an example. You have a conference call, babysitter, nursery is on strike because you live in Germany. So you have to work from home, your baby is crying, you have some urgent washing to do, you are on a conference call which is provided by Cisco or WebEx, so you must follow some presentations, your headphone is on, baby is somehow crying, makes you nervous, washing machine for hours is blinking and saying, okay, get me out, I'm ready and about to smell. And you're in the conference call, you have the headphone on, your tablet, you walk down the stairway to the washing machine, boop, you fall down the stair. Your corporate tablet is broken. Your leg is broken. Which insurance is going to pay? You were on the way in fulfilling a private activity, and at the same time, you were working for your company. Answering only this question has implication on billions of euros, dollars, even yen. So whatever you take, but it has implications for the whole insurance industry and how you are employed. If you want to know how this is actually a real case study, if you want to know how the court decided on that, I'll tell you later. Human dominance, and this is outdated already. Human dominance, we said during the study, the human dominance will be in the creative part and in the touch areas. So wherever you have direct relation to human, where it is necessary, this will remain there, and creativity will be an area where artificial intelligence will not be able to compete with human intelligence. And as I said, this is already outdated. Touch services will become more important as they're today. So the whole area of, let's say, education, child education, teaching will, particular in the let's say in the young adult phase, will stay human dominance. Having said, which means what is the role of human? So if everything is going to be automated, if machines are creative, they are bosses, they can make decision making, they can paint and take over the whole area of creative art. So what is human role in there? It's a difficult question, but what is for sure, no matter what will come, the ability of self-management, your ability to not to wait for someone to tell you what is the next training course I need to apply, of course online. What is the next qualification, learning and development measure that I need? What are my sales and negotiation skills? These skills will be important for everyone to survive in this market where everything is not on fixed base rather than on assignment base. I mentioned that earlier, so it means even if you are, creative designer, if you are a psychologist, you will need, so in case you are still in university or you're planning to send your younglings over there, make sure that they have a decent understanding of math and engineering. This is an interesting phenomenon. Lots of studies about that, how child prodigies, in German Wunderkinder, how these prodigies are single individuals in this whole world of automated standardizations, how they play a key role in changing entire economies. The youngest Silicon Valley billionaire, self-made billionaire from Silicon Valley, is 8 years old. The good thing about digitization is, and about, let's say, far distance learning, virtual collaboration, is maybe another way of inclusion. So that disabilities will not become, their personal physical disability is not a reason to be exempted from work and from the labor market. So this is a big opportunity. You all know, let's say, the standard examples of autism working in the insurance industry, but there are much more things that are able to come. Okay, I need to stop. So latte macchiato, workplace is going to be important, and maybe this one as a final remark. So ambidexterity, the ambidextrous organization, lots of things written about that, but this becomes reality now. It's not just a hypothetical thing, but the ability to work on efficiencies, so to work on incremental development, exploit, at the same time to think disruptive, to change disruptively operating models towards digitizations, business models towards digital business models, becoming a key qualification. So this is, in a quick run, the study. As I said, time is running out. And thank you very much for listening. There was one question I would like to answer. What's the role of human? Think about this. In the last 300 years, every revolution, technical revolution we had, every time it was said there's no role for humans, starting with the steam machine, Lord Byron's destroy what destroys you, and by economic research, every time thereafter there was a rise of employment. I can only say this philosophical words, and we have to hope that this is going to be the case. Thank you very much. We have now the panel discussion, so you will have opportunities to raise your questions, but please join me in introducing my panelists, Cristina, Julian, Lance, and Andreas. You may want to give a quick introduction, where you come from, who you are, what you do.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Cristina Riesen. I'm the general manager for Evernote in EMEA, based in Zurich. This is the hub for the region for us.
I'm Julian. Very nice to meet you guys. I'm the founder of Deal, which was one of the fastest growing startups in Switzerland. Just starting my new business, and that's going to be in Berlin. I'm really happy to come back home.
Hey there, as Reza said, my name is Lance, and I'm heading the service design unit at Factory Berlin, and I'm also responsible for the co-working we just recently launched in the beginning of July.
Hi, my name is Andreas, and I'm co-founder and CEO of Talentwunder, and we actually do a lot of big data analysis for the global workforce, and we help companies find skilled workers very easily.
Thanks. Cristina, first question. Evernote, international company. I know you work with Deutsche Telekom in bringing Evernote to 150 million devices. You are based in Switzerland, your company in the Valley and wherever. How do you organize international work at Evernote?
Yeah, well, at Evernote, we are basically building the modern workspace. So we want to lead by example, meaning that we try to be as fluid, exactly what you were saying before, as possible. And going back to the study, which is amazing, it's super fascinating. I think what is really important to note And I want to be a bit controversial here because, you know, you are picturing this horrible image with machines being your bosses and, you know, you have to be super competitive and really, you know, fight for your life every day. But let's try to look at things through another perspective and maybe see the fact that technology can empower us, humans. Maybe for the very first time in history, it can give back our lives. And what I mean by that is that, again, technology should not be there to think for you or to replace you, but it should be an expansion of your needs, empower you, and help you live a better life. Because for a long time we have been talking about life and work balance, right? It's a huge topic, especially for us here in Europe. But again, why, first of all, separate work and life? It is your life. Whatever you're doing at any point in time is your life, so you should spend it wisely. And then finding balance, well, life is unbalanced just by definition, unless you're living in a bubble and nothing happens to you. There's a high chance you're missing the bus or, you know, stuff will happen to you on a daily basis. So I think the only thing we need to balance is our minds. And machines will not do things unless we allow them to do. Machines will not take over unless we, as humans, are completely okay to do this. And going to the first slide you showed with the development and this amazing exponential development of technology, well, it's going just really fast, right? It's just amazing. But think about all the socio-economic models we have in place. If you would put the two on the same slide, we would see a rather linear development. And I think this is the huge gap that we need to bridge. But again, I think with all technology we have today, it's totally within our power to do so. And we at Evernote, a couple of years ago, when we've launched Evernote Business, we have discovered that 2/3 of our users were using Evernote in a work context. So it was clear that people are looking for smarter ways to work, that change is coming, whether we like it or not. And again, we as a company at Evernote, we try to live this change day by day.
Thanks. Julian, from peer-to-peer to peer-to-peer rather than hierarchical. I heard something about holacracy. Is that something you're familiar with, or what is the way how you at Financefox, and I heard new startups to expect it. How do you treat this subject?
Well, holacracy is a part of it, right? So a bit about my story. So I worked in a very, very backward-looking workplace called Rocket Internet. That's basically where I started to learn how to work. It was a terrible place. We had a staircase. It was just called the crying corner. And you had people in there basically all the time just crying because of the pressure. Where did it come from? Micromanagement, no autonomy, no alignment, treating human beings just like cattle, and amazing amounts of potential that were simply not used. And that was, for me, something that was very successful, and I started my company like that. And my company was very successful. And I realized that we're making a lot of money. The environment is terrible. In my own company, the people started crying. I saw people crying every single week. So I said something really needs to change. It was a tough journey for me the last 3-4 years. And for me, the big question was, how can we actually use the full potential of a human being? How can we make a company work a little bit more like a city, which is a city, when it doubles in growth, the productivity of every single person living in the city increases by 15%. And in a traditional organization, the productivity, when it doubles, decreases. So I've done a lot of experiments. Bottom line for me over the last 3 years was, it's tough to change an organization from an existing traditional hierarchical structure to a new way of working. Chapeau to Tony Hsieh from Zappos, who've done it this year. It's pretty much the biggest organizational experiment in human history. and I admire him for that. He's done a great job. I didn't make it, so I said, I'm never going to run a company like this again. And I started my new company based. One part is holacracy, but just one more thing. It's not only holacracy, it's about self-management. So how can we actually make a company work like a living organism that quickly adjusts to the outside world? Number two, how can we make a workplace where people can fully be themselves and bring themselves to the work and don't wear these professional masks and can really exploit their own potential? And number three is how can we really create a workplace that has an evolutionary purpose? And if we create these type of companies, that is the future of work. The productivity is going to increase dramatically, and the old, backward-looking structures are going to die.
Thanks, Julian. I think a fascinating way on how humanities and digitizations go into one lens. Since I'm a big fan of yours, and our ways always cross. I keep you for the last question. So, Andreas. I missed, once one thesis on digital workers or workers to become data packages, and recruitment will be less intuitive rather than an algorithm-based prediction. I met this week a company which is on people analytics, and they have set up a solution on that they can predict by extracting data from employees. They can predict when are they about to leave the company, so you can work on retention, or you can work to minimize the exit package, however you want. So what is your view on digitalization and recruitment and other HR processes?
Yeah, so maybe you mentioned Workday, the company. So they're looking at data you have internally in your company, like reviews from employees, etc. And they try to just crunch the data and try to figure out who of your employees might be willing to switch to another company, so you can keep them.
What's the name again?
Workday. So we're actually doing quite similar things just from the other side, because it's very hard to find skilled employees right now. So, for example, in Germany we have we're like 40,000 IT engineers. So our idea was, instead of just like building another job board where it's a marketplace and you don't find them anyway, just like crunch some numbers. So we collected over 1 billion profiles from social networks, and now you can search through them and you find like all PHP developers in Berlin, but it doesn't help you. It's just like more people. So we want to use the data to be able to make better decisions. So what we do is we calculate which one of those are most likely to switch jobs based on all the data they have in networks. And like easy stuff is like how long are they in their job, how long are you usually in the job as a PHP developer, but also stuff like, did you change your profile picture, right? We found like it's a very high correlation between updating a profile picture and being open for a new job. It's the people who go to work Monday morning, they're like, fucking job, I hate it. And they're not like, okay, I go to whatever platform and looking for jobs, but I might update my Sync profile, right? And we're just collecting this data, which is very valuable for companies, because they know, okay, these people, they might be interested. And it's kind of being a data package to some extent, but what we try is just like to free some time for recruiters to really talk to people. Because in the end, the recruitment process in the next like 20 years, it will still be people involved talking to people. And that's actually one of your points as well. It's like whenever there's people in the action, you have to have other people talking to them. But you can make better decisions using some data. And another example would be, we're partnering with IBM there. IBM has a supercomputer called Watson, IBM Watson. Some of you might know it, it won the Jeopardy thing. And we use it to make a big 5 personality analysis out of a profile without even talking to those people. We can just like use the data we find in the social networks and tell you like how likely, how good is a team player and how well they're organized, etc. And it's just like a lot of stuff that's in the data that most people don't even see. And we're just like trying to crunch some of the numbers, and that's probably like the way it's going to go. Like just like find better data points to make decisions. But I still think at least in the recruitment process, there will be people involved.
I'm very much looking forward to this transformation of HR based on analytics. Lens, the factory you're in now, co-working, one of the topics you're covering. How is your latte macchiato?
Actually, it's pretty good, I'd say. No, it really is. And unfortunately, you didn't show that point, but maybe also due to that reason, because I'm here to talk about it. But what we can see and feel in our co-working space is that the human factor is still very important, of course, and they really meet at the coffee machine. So we have a huge kitchen in our co-working space. And what really happens is that people connect and they talk about daily stuff like the weather. Maybe that's the conversation starter, whatever it is. And then they get in conversations and then really collaboration happens. So, for example, we do have a fashion designer at our space, and he was talking to a guy that runs a startup for this augmented reality. And then there was Fashion Week in Berlin, and then they said, okay, let's collaborate. And they had a showroom using these ocular rifts glasses thingies to present his fashion. And this was really something I was amazed by within just a couple of weeks that this collaboration happened. But again, therefore, I would say you need a space, a place where people can connect in a very informal way in the first place, and then if they get along, and then there is some overlaps in terms of their businesses or whatever they do, and they start working together. That's really great to see, definitely. Thanks.
Any questions from the audience?
To Andreas, maybe. How do you actually? I have a question, right? So we talked about, or you talked about this social profiles and things, right, and unlocking the potential in there. But how do you actually unlock the potential for HR purposes if people are not, let's say, as active in the social networks? Or how do you incentivize those people to actually provide you access on that?
Yeah, so it depends which direction you're going. Like Workday, as we mentioned before, they're doing it from the inside, retention management, and they have a lot of data just because they force the employees to do written exams of like how their workplace is, like what is satisfied, not satisfied, etc. And there's we have over 8 terabytes of data, just like text data from social networks. That's a lot of stuff. It's not just like a name and some CV data. It's a lot of stuff that you can find in social networks. Not for everybody probably, but it's increasing with dramatic speed. So it's just depends what your purpose is. And I'm talking a lot to other companies that want to do whatever finding, and you just have to find the sources to crunch the data. For example, prediction in which TV show might be good at a TV station. There's data, for example, Facebook likes. You can just crunch the number on Facebook likes and do some analysis on the target audiences from the US versus German, and you find similar target audiences, find similar likes, and find similar shows. So there's a lot of data out there. You just have to find the right sources, I guess, if that answers the question.
How would you avoid that somebody is basically manipulating the data that you would find? I mean, that would be my first approach if I want to build a certain profile, for example, to be attractive.
Yeah. So individually you can try it. So what we can do is find multiple of your identities online and combine them and try to figure out if it's you're lying on LinkedIn versus Sing, for example. That's one way. So yes, of course. As an individual, you can certainly do it, but at some point it would just top up. And another way to see it is over the whole masses of people, you can really do it. So one interesting thought was why Google, the search, the rankings of Google, why they got a lot of social data to it, is because it's hard to manipulate social. It's easy to manipulate websites, like putting more keywords on it or whatever you can do, right? But social, it's very hard because it's a lot of manual work. You have to build up your profile, and you get some waiting for it, yeah.
I have a question for you guys who work in agile teams and agile kind of organizations. How how do you combine the human element when people actually ask for promotions with that? I've started using agile teams about a year ago, and obviously when you don't have a boss and don't have someone who looks across your work on a constant basis, I find it quite difficult to then evaluate someone, giving someone a pay rise or actually helping them advance in the organization. So how do you guys cope with that, and what's your experience with that?
Well, so obviously a big challenge, and I don't have the answer. But I do have an approach. You quickly talked about holacracy. So who knows what holacracy is here? Just hands up. Okay, so not that many. So let me just quickly give you an overview. So what's holacracy? It's about distributing very explicit roles. And a single individual can have multiple roles. And now what happens is this is becoming a trend more and more. A lot of very progressive entrepreneurs are adopting holacracy, and it's kind of like an app store where traditional processes that need to be done in a company are redefined. And in holacracy, for example, Zappos is a big contributor to that open source app store. They have defined a compensation badge app. Yeah. So, for example, work is they have built a structure where the contribution per role is being defined by a jury, and then very good work is being defined, and you are compensated on top. There's no kind of going up in the structure as traditionally, but you can take more and more responsibility, and the results and productivities can be measured. And you have a neutral position in the company that is there to really rate the productivity of every single individual and how much he's giving to the company and how much value he's creating. So I think it's going in that direction. It doesn't give you a concrete example or a concrete direction, but I don't have the concrete direction anyways right now. The way I'm doing is with experimentation. I'm starting with compensation-badged approaches, but yeah.
In the future, we learn that humans are going to be replaced by machines, so we would end up in a situation which was described, for example, by Jeremy Rifkin in his book Zero Margin Cost Society. So basically, we can do whatever we want, we can enjoy ourselves, and all the work is basically done by machines. All the things we don't want to cope with. This is the picture he is basically describing. Now, for me, the challenge, this is a small remark, the challenge there is basically to avoid the machines being our bosses, because this has been a picture where Stephen Hawking and others basically have signed a memo basically saying that we have to set up a governance that basically prevents this situation to happen. Yeah? What's your thoughts about that? Do you see the danger that machines will replace us? What is your take?
Totally agree with you. It's all about governance at the end of the day. And when we look at all the data we have today, there are just amazing advantages that comes with everything we have. Just think about whenever you want to run a test, there's no longer a need for hypotheses, because with all the data, you don't need a hypothesis. You're just going for exactly what's working, right? Or even in medicine, machines are able to go and make very clear diagnosis based on all the data faster than a human. And I think that's fine. But we as humans, again, we need to come together and decide what our future should look like to start with. What kind of world do we want to live in? It's totally, again, within our power, especially with all the information channels we have today. And then, again, decide to which extent we let technology help us. And this starts with very little things today. It's not said because you have a smartphone that you should be the slave of that machine, because the smartphone will not send you any push notifications unless you allow the machine to do so. It will not force you to check your emails every 5 minutes and so on and so forth. So it all starts with us. I think, again, finding this new discipline at looking at our lives goals in general, what we want to achieve, the kind of projects we want to work on. And I think this is really fascinating because people today gravitate around projects. It's no longer around companies, but it's around projects that have an impact and that have a bigger meaning.
Exactly. Purpose is basically key if you want to get innovation. I would agree to that. But maybe a second remark, the analytics part, what frightens me or I feel uncomfortable is somebody's basically analyzing just my social profiles and then takes decisions without me having any opportunity to explain or do things like that. McKinsey, for example, they analyzed, I think, around 15 or 20,000 CVs and also the interviews. You might know that. And they found a correlation of something like 99% doing a machine-based analysis on CVs versus the interview results, which is to a certain extent frightening.
Just another just like that, I think Google, they quit the interview process because it's a strong cognitive bias. And the first 5 seconds you meet someone, you have made up your opinion without even having a look at the CV. That was at least what I heard, so this is completely
exactly. It's
the same as they skip the interview process?
they skip it because the cognitive bias is way too strong.
Yeah, so the result was, in this case, if you let a computer make the decision, it will be better, right? But it goes in both ways.
Do you feel comfortable with that?
I mean, we can make an interview, but what we try to do is just like help in the decision making. So because like nowadays, you could talk to a lot of people and just spend a little time, or you talk to just 5 people instead of 100 and spend a lot of time with them. So our goal is not to replace the recruiter itself, but to help them, give them tools where they can find out if it is a fit before they have to talk to them. And as I said, like the human-to-human interaction will be there in like the next 20, 30 years.
But
I mean, no. Google didn't say like we will just like drop it. They have a very human-based interview process, which is like 10 people from the team you will work with have to say yes to you before you're employed. But what they said is like, if we use more like data in the process, we can make better decisions because there's no human bias as much as it was before.
So I completely agree that the interview process is bullshit bingo. It's just 2 people acting about something that's not true. And I do believe that this human interaction is necessary, but you need to have a better insight. You have very short, limited time. So what I'm doing is I'm giving every single applicant the Gallup Strengths Finder test. That is analyzing their strengths. I found it the best tool. That gives me a really good overview. And then I'm combining that with the roles that also have the strengths that are needed to match these roles. And I'm trying to build like a dating website for applicants and job roles right now. So I'm experimenting with that a little bit to give it a more data-driven approach.
For me, it's also maybe the question, so I a little bit disagree with you that it's bullshit bingo. What do you want to get? Do you want to get the best PHP programmer, coder, or do you want to have a nice team member? So I think even though it's cognitive bias, I think there's also some soft skills involved that makes work for yourself and also for the whole team a good thing. And then we're coming back to what you just said. If someone asked me what's the future of work, I would say what's the future of life? Because it's just a part of your life. And then it's a matter of who do you want to work with, and can you maybe have a beer afterwards and then some rather informal chat. And then you have this idea on a napkin having a beer, because otherwise you wouldn't go out there and do this talking to these persons. So I think also soft skills, even though there's all data and you can do amazing things with it, but in the end you have to work together somehow. And if you don't get along, then maybe you're not as good as the best PHP programmer if you get him.
And just to maybe add to that, speaking about corporate culture, how do we ensure that you have those people who are fully embracing your vision. This is not something you will able to do via any data. So how do you make sure that, again, unless you have the right people on board, they may be super skilled, but it can mess up your whole company.
Yep.
And I think this is where having these purely human interactions and making sure that you establish that, you know, deep connection is really crucial.
I think the smartest guy in this area is Richard Sheridan. He wrote the book Joy.inc. He's the owner of Menlo Innovations, and he's done an amazing job quitting or skipping the interview process, getting the people together, see how they interact with each other for a day, 2, 3, 4, whatever, and then basing the decision on that. Yeah.
The little bit that you held out as hope of the human creativity will still, and then you said, well, no, actually, no. We can now do paintings and stories and everything else. So you sit there and you start to get more and more depressed about this. One of the things, though, that is astonishing is the nature of the relationship between the employee and the company or the group that they're working with. Which, everything that you said is starting to become unraveled. You don't have a permanent relationship with a company, you work on a project. You don't have a team that you work with every day, you're working with them on a Google Hangout, so on and so forth. So how are you able to, in making this transformation, just like we had to make the transformation of having 95% of the economy, people in the economy working in agriculture to people working in industry, now we're having to make the transition from 90% of the people working in industry and traditional companies to these kinds of more fluid, holocratic relationships. How do you supply the kind of support that the individuals will need? They're giving up all that they had with the previous relationships. Now they're having something that's much more flexible, requires a lot more initiative on their side. How do you provide them with some support to make that transition?
I think we are, as we say, we are at the edge into a new dawn. So lots of those questions. I guess there are many options that we need to experiment. So what is the right way to take there? What we see is and I'm more having a look, let's say, on big scale companies. And what we see there, there will be a major shift required in the role of coaching. Nowadays, most companies, and actually lots of people find it quite fancy, the role of a coach is outsourced to a specialized professional coach. And coaching will be the utmost important thing that a leader has to do. So assuming your supervisor, and when I talk about managers being machines, it's more on measuring your outcome. It's more on evaluating your work productivity. But the development of someone working or being in a working environment, his leader, his boss, his major role will be coaching that person towards self-management, towards taking the right steps in development. So that will be one path for at least one group of people. Touch, as I said, so the touch services, medicine, other areas will remain, I think, for quite some while, human area. The other thing is experiment. I really don't have the answers on that. I can raise the same questions that we do, but we need to show with this study we have to rethink. Although we don't know into which direction, but we have to do it.
Maybe something to add to this. It goes back to education and school, and how we, at school start putting more emphasis on creativity, because, on the slide, creativity it's kind of, if you're an artist and you're a creative, start learning some math because, that's what's gonna, make you successful. But I think it's really going back and empowering people and unleashing their creativity and, this ability of coping with the kind of holacracy and self-management environment, because our generation was not necessarily raised like this. We had a completely different approach, and I think it's really important.
Can I have one last word, just quickly? Sorry. Is it over?
Go ahead, yeah.
So just quickly, I think we need a catalyst for societal change. I was with Brian Robertson, and I told him I think holacracy is the catalyst for societal change. Because my question that has driven me the last couple of years is the tendency towards human conflict, hardwired in the human being or not. And I think that holacracy can help us overcome the human tension that is in these traditional structures, because they have created an environment that is simply too fast for them to cope with, and there's so much frustration in the traditional structure. And then his answer was, I always watch a TV series with my wife about ancient Rome, and it was totally okay to just walk down the street and kill somebody because he got on your nerves. And the people went like, why did you kill this guy? And he was like, well, I had a bad day. And they were like, okay, don't do it again, right? So in 60 years from now, it should not be okay anymore that a manager violates the personal space of an employee just because he can. And I think concepts like holacracy are going to help us in this to move into this new paradigm. And the role of the startup is to be at the forefront. It's not the role of the corporates.
I think perfect words, visionary words for closure. Thank you, audience, for such a focused discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you to the panelists for joining. And enjoy your day. If you want to download the study, you can two ways. You can follow me on Twitter, English, German version, both available. Also on the corporate website of Deutsche Telekom, Telekom with a K, telekom.com/innovation. Thank you very much.